Hi, hello, I finally got around to Ogre Oustin, and it inspired me to make this video. With the 3.0.0 update in Scarlet and Violet, Ogre Ousting was adjusted. Now this update did just state the words, the difficulty of Ogre Ousting has been adjusted. So it doesn't exactly tell us what has changed, but according to people who played this minigame a lot before the update, it seems that Ogre Ousting is slightly easier. When I say slightly easier, I don't mean that you can get the shiny Munchlax reward by yourself, but you should be able to complete normal difficulty by yourself with a couple of attempts. So today's video is to help you get better at Ogre Ousting with the goal of you being able to earn that shiny marked Munchlax at the end of this video. I'll be honest, I don't know exactly how hard Ogre Ousting was before the 3.0.0 update, but the first challenge I had to overcome was just learning the maps. If you don't know the maps, you're not going to be very helpful in a team situation when it comes to getting your shiny reward. I helped 3 different groups that have all never won hard mode for the first time to get their shiny Munchlax this past weekend, so it's very possible for players who have never won to come together to win. So our first tip is going to be experience all 6 maps a handful of times so you know them well enough. But also, don't attempt the shiny run on the Apple Hills map. This is by far the worst map due to it being laggier than all the other maps, and the fences and trees will catch you more often than the other maps, which will slow you down. It's an incredibly frustrating map, and if you do get this map, just fail it on purpose so you get a new map for your group. While there are trainers that probably have preferences of their favorite maps, you're only going to get better and be more helpful by running a couple rounds on each map. It's just important to know how the map is laid out and where things are spaced and the timing of getting your berries and then returning to the goalposts. The next tip is pretty simple. Try to have each player stick to an area that they prefer. This will prevent players from overlapping and taking each other's berries. If 2 players keep going to the same area and one is ultimately hogging the berries, you're just going to end up failing because somebody needs to move. All of these maps are big enough to prevent overlap, so try to stick to your own area until we get to the later parts of the rounds, and I'll go over that a little bit more in depth. Our next tip is assigning roles. Since hard mode is 10 rounds, you need some structure and rules for your group. So for the first 6 to 7 rounds, I would assign each person a single berry color and have them stick to only collecting that color. Once they complete their berry drop-off, they will then stick around at the goalposts to defend and scare off Pokemon from eating. A side note here is each Pokemon steals a certain amount of berries, with Snorlax being the worst. But if you want to win the shiny, your team will have to prevent 99% of the stealing during all 10 rounds. Just don't have any stealing happening, and then this won't be a problem. But we'll also talk about that in a little bit. If each person on the team can frequently make it to round 5 or 6 in normal mode, you should have good synergy together to make it to round 7 and 8 consistently in hard mode. Speaking of round 7 and 8, this is where your team will adjust strategy. Instead of everyone focusing on a single berry, the team should now switch to getting 30 berries as fast as possible and come together for that first drop-off. Once that happens, one person will stay back and defend because that will trigger the Pokemon to come and eat your berries. So one person will stay back to defend, the other 3 will finish off getting the berries from that big first 120 berry drop-off. And when I say come together, it's once one person drops off their berries, that will trigger the wave of Pokemon to come in to eat your berries. So ideally, if everyone is going to the same areas, everyone is picking up 30 berries as quickly as possible, and everyone knows the timing to come back together, then that will set up the remainder of your round with success. There's a couple more tips inside this tip. So for the berry defender, you don't want to leave your post even if you think you can grab some berries and get back, especially after round 8. If you are on a map where the goalposts are in a square and not a line, it will be much easier for the defender. All they'll have to do is stand exactly in the middle, and they'll just hit that roar button over and over to scare off any Pokemon that come to each of those corners. They don't have to move at all. The line of goalposts is a bit trickier, so if your team is having a problem with defending, you might want to stick to maps where the goalposts are in a square. Speaking of defending, there are 3 players on berry duty after that initial drop in those later rounds that we've talked about. So after that initial drop, those 3 players leaving to get more berries should leave in a direction of an incoming Pokemon if they can do that. When those players are on their way to get the second batches of berries, they can help scare off Pokemon as they leave. This will not only help your defender and give them more time to get situated for the oncoming waves, but it doesn't take that much time because you're already headed in that direction. You're also going to be faster on your motorcycle than the Pokemon running in to steal your berries. So if you are returning with berries, again, it only takes a second or two to scare those Pokemon you are passing on your way back to. With rounds 8, 9, and 10 specifically, all 4 players should get 30 of any berry, and if the timing is right, they should drop off at the same exact time with 1 defending and the other 3 leaving. At this point, though, I would not have the 3 berry gatherers go to 30 again. I would do smaller batches of 15 to 25 berries, so with that final stretch, you know exactly what you need. Let me reword this. If those 3 players are getting 30 again, you'll have less time near the end of your round to make up any berry you are short on. On top of that, you also may be leaving your defender alone for too long, and they might get overwhelmed. The final round for 4 people requires 200 berries, so 4 people dropping off 30 each is 120 of the 200 done, with 1 person fully on defense and the other 3 responsible for the last 80 berries. Because we'll only have 80 berries left over on round 10 after that initial drop-off, that is why I don't suggest those 3 berry runners to go for another 30 again, because there might be overlap or there might not be enough time if you're missing like 2 blue or 6 red. With those final rounds of round 9 and 10, we were much, much more successful doing shorter 15 to 20 berry runs to get more runs in to hit our goal in order to win. Another tip here is obviously this is so much easier with voice communication, as I could have verbally told the team I had the last 20 blue and no one needed to grab any more blue. But I would just assume most people are going to use Discord text chat to set up and play. In that case, you're going to assign areas and color and the main defender for the last round. Make any adjustments if needed. For example, after I failed twice at round 10 with one of my groups, I just asked 2 players to flip roles, switched 1 defender and 1 barrier runner, and with that slight change, we won the next round. Not everyone is going to be good at defending, and that's totally okay, but don't be afraid to switch some players around. I'm not sure what tip we're on, but don't pop balloons when you're full. This will matter more on and after round 8, but when you're on your way back with 30 berries, if you touch any balloons while you're full, they'll still pop, and then your team will have to wait for them to respawn, which isn't very helpful at all. Another small tip also is don't go running into the goalpost because you'll bonk yourself, and that'll waste like 2 or 3 seconds. Another small tip is trust your defender. Like I said earlier, you can scare Pokemon on your way out or on your way in, but don't sit too long at the base. Trust your defender, especially if your defender is in the square goalpost. They're not going to need any help at all because they will be able to scare everything without moving in the center. So just don't linger at the base too long in those final rounds where you have that dedicated defender. Finally, after each round is over, you can still move freely on the map. This is going to be the most helpful tip here because you're going to want to use that time in between rounds to go far enough away from the goalpost. So when the timer starts, you're going to work your way back to it with your 30 berries. And this pairs really well with the first tip of knowing the maps. You'll know how far is too far or how close is too close, and you're only going to get that experience by playing those maps yourself. I will say, don't expect to win Ogre Ousting on your first try, but once you play on each map 2 or 3 times, you're going to know how far is too far or how close is too close, and you're going to know which parts of the maps you prefer or which part of the maps you don't like. I taught myself and successfully soloed the normal 6-round mode of Ogre Ousting, and then I started to put together groups of people who have never won to help them get their shiny Munchlax. After about 2 hours of playing both solo and then moving over to completing hard mode with groups, this is how many Moshi I got piled up. While I did say voice chat was helpful, all of my clears had no voice chat, so it's very doable. There is no doubt that if your group can make it past round 9, you'll be able to win the entire 10 rounds. You'll just probably have to rearrange who's defending in the middle if you are struggling on round 10. Also, if you need any help, I'll be doing Ogre Ousting over on my Twitch from time to time. I do want to help people get their shiny marked Munchlax, but in the meantime, see if you can complete normal by yourself now that the 3.0.0 update is out. Even if you cannot win right away, understanding the maps will help you get better when you play with other people, and the rewards are worth it as you prep to get a group in order to complete hard mode. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions or comments or I missed something, feel free to comment below. And if you're just looking for a Pokemon community to do Ogre Ousting with, or raids, or anything else Pokemon related, feel free to join the Discord. I'll leave that in the YouTube pinned comment below. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.